Hello and welcome to Money Matters. This is our very first episode of Money Matters, and throughout this season we'll be discussing money, finances, our relationship with money, and what it is that God wants for us and how it is that we should use our money. Today, however, we'll be focusing on why money management is important, especially to us as Christians. And to assist us in discussing this topic and understanding more about the impacts of money on our lives, we have Mr. Moyo here with us. Mr. Moyo, welcome to Money Matters.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Moyo, we understand that money, of course, is something we can't get away from. We need money to buy petrol. We need money to buy food. We need money to afford the homes in which we live. So, Mr. Moyo, why is it that money is so alluring beyond our basic needs?
Oh, thank you very much. You know, the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 10, verses 19, says money moves everything.
Okay.
Yes, and I always like to put things into context before I can really go deeper into them.
Okay.
What is money? To me, money is like a checkbook. It defines the potential you have in having around your wealth, around what you can have physically. Money cannot be spent by our children, cannot be eaten by anybody, but it is a sign of what you can be able to possess. Yes.
Okay. And how is it then in your personal experience and in your past life? I understand that you are now a student pastor, but in your previous life you were also a businessman and you still are a businessman. How have you managed to manage your money?
Well, the point of departure is to try and work for money.
Okay.
So that you can have money.
Okay.
You cannot manage what you cannot have.
All right.
So the reason why we are business people, the reason why we are employed is just to fight and try and get that particular money.
Okay.
Then once you have it in your pot, you can only move as per what you have managed to get.
Okay.
So the management of money is dependent on how much you have managed to attain.
So do I only start managing money when I have a lot of it? Or do I start managing it while there's still a little bit of it? So do I teach my children while they're still young with their savings or their tuck that they get to how to use that, manage their money? Or do I wait for them to grow up and to kind of just figure it out as they go along?
Yeah, every cent counts, every rand counts, every dollar counts. In a family setup, because as a father, I have to share with my family in terms of whatever I get. I'm actually the breadwinner. Therefore, if I want it to be relevant to them, I need to manage that money with them so that even in their own spend, they understand that we are moving from A to Z. So suggesting that the budgeting elements need to include my wife, my children, and everyone who is affected.
So let's talk about, just before we get to the budget, let's talk about the actual management of money. What do we mean by managing money?
Okay, you know, managing money is more or less centered on calculating your needs.
Okay.
Comparing it with what you have. Meaning that what you have has to speak to what you can manage to cover up your needs. Because remember, in the beginning I said money is just an explanation of what I can manage to possess. So when I'm managing that now, I need to put my priorities online and say, okay, these are my priorities based on what I have. I can only equate them to A, B, C, D. You know, at a given time, you cannot manage to have everything. But there are those key elements which you need to put on A list, B list, C list, D list. Yeah.
So how do we then plan for the future with this money management?
You know, the future tells to me that what I can manage to get today might be impossible tomorrow.
Okay.
Or the better if what I manage to get today, tomorrow I improve. You know, everyone keeps on planning and say, tomorrow I can do better. But when you have money, think about tomorrow. That dry season comes. Like a farmer, when you go for harvesting, you know that there are dry seasons which are coming until the next rain season. But with money, it's tricky because I can be employed today on a salary of an X amount. what's going to happen next year, what's going to happen tomorrow. So you know the specialist on money management, they'll tell you that at least you need to live and have 3 months ahead in terms of your money. Meaning that if I'm salaried,
Yes.
I should be able to say, if today my job was to be terminated,
Yes.
I am able to survive for the coming 3 months. Because in a normal sense, a person can recover in 3 months if your CV is well cooked, is good. Don't have your job terminated today and tomorrow, the next day, you are already redundant. You are looking for help from A to Z. So what about a person? When we say you plan for the future, we mean therefore, at 50 years I'll retire, at 60 years I'll retire. What's going to happen? God is going to give me 30 more years to live. Out of job, I'm no longer able to. Plan ahead. Plan ahead as well for your children. They are going according to life stages. There will be adversity. The needs of the varsity life are not the same like primary school or basic education. What's going to happen then? Don't get scared or shocked when you see that now you need certain amount to deal with this and that, which you could have dealt with it at a certain stage.
So I think another part of this show that we would like to deal with is the practicalities and the realities of our money matters and our money issues. And in Southern Africa, we have a consistent problem of unemployment.
Okay.
So where people don't have a consistency in getting any kind of financial assistance, whether it be from the state, whether it be through their employment. So how, in those situations, should people then manage the little that they have or the little that they are able to attain? I understand that you've got some business experience. So I guess maybe I'm trying to lean into that kind of experience of yours to say that in those tough times, in those lean years, with the inability to be able to sustain oneself in the ordinary sense of having employment and a salary, how are people able to manage those money matters?
Yeah, look, I will always fight for one vision with an individual. It's understandable to be employed. We all start there. Being employed, let it be a starting point.
Okay.
Always think out of the box for self-sustainability out of any other person. I would love to see our church driving the zeal within our young people to be self-sustainable, and we network within with each other on how we can grow our small businesses, starting from agriculture. You can name all of them, and let us not rely on being employed. Actually, you'll see that there are more benefits other than just money of being self-employed. You don't beg from your boss to go to camp meeting because you plan your own things. You know, I can tell you those who are employed now, they are already filling up their leave forms for camp meeting. So there are so many benefits of being self-employed, but self-sustainability, as a businessman, I can see the future whilst I'm here. But if you're salaried, your future is dependent on another man. You know, as a businessman, you don't tell your employees that I might be closing in 6 months. You keep them going as if all is well, whilst you know that you've got things are tough. So therefore, I would like to urge our young people. I don't want to talk about all elderly ones. Our young people, always know that when you are given a job, it is a stepping stone for you to learn, so that from there you can, after acquiring those skills, you can go and start your own thing.
And no job is too small.
Sorry?
And no job is too small.
Yeah, definitely.
And no job is irrelevant, and no job will not teach you
Trust
any
me,
skills.
I grew up in an environment where my parents taught me that after school, I have to carry a basket of tomatoes going around selling. Maybe that is the thing which drove me to be a business person, selling sweets on the streets. Some of the tomatoes were coming from the garden, from our yard. We can plant. So there is nothing which is termed small. Great business people who own huge supermarkets, if they tell you how they started, you'll be surprised. That spaza shop, do not disrespect those people who start those things. If well planned and calculated, sooner or later they'll be massive.
So let's talk about the planning. So we've spoken about if you are salaried, you should try and have a 3-month salary. That's at least that's the general advice around money around your money management. How much generally would you say is required for emergency funds? Again, for someone who is a businessman or an entrepreneur who doesn't have much in terms of resources, how much would you say they should always keep for a rainy day?
Yeah, I would say I want to deal with this on a percentage form than on how much. Because if you say how much, somebody has got a 20,000 rand salary, somebody has got a 10,000 rand salary. It's better to always peg your things in percentages.
Okay.
As God even deals with us in percentages. It comes and say, return the 10th.
Yes.
10%, bring it back. Ne?
Yes.
It does not belong to you. Taxman also tells you this percentage. Yeah. So I'll say to our people, I want to use the layman's language. Don't be Christian about emergencies in life.
Okay.
When I'm saying do not be Christian, remember that there are times where your health will need attention. Therefore, there is medical aid. If you can be able to invest in medical aid, if you can be able to invest in car, or let me say property insurance, car insurance, household insurance, those are mainly the emergencies. Emergencies centered around my health, my children's health and everybody. Emergencies centered around whatever means I use, transport, this and that. Can I invest? Because those people are saying to us, if you put a 300 rands monthly towards your car insurance, it suggests that given an emergency, we can deal with it in a bigger volume than the 300 rands. Definitely, if I were to say to somebody, go and put 300 rands every month in a bucket, it will not be able to deal with the real emergency issues. So I know that there are some of our brethren who believe that it's not good to have medical aid. I'm saying, please, invest in medical aid. It's your life. Invest in insurance. I don't know about life insurance. Life insurance is death, so I cannot talk about when you are dead. But emergencies are meant for you when you are still alive. How do you deal with them? Always listen to these people who come to you with better offers, and if they are authentic, take time and reason with them and invest in them. Even these days, you can start investing for the future of your children, schooling.
I think that might be a good place for us to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Hello and welcome back to Money Matters. We're still discussing why money management is important to the Christian. And of course, this entire season, we'll be discussing everything related to money, budgeting, financing, how it is to manage your retirement plan and annuities, and how it is to prepare for this life while we are still in this life. So, Mr. Moyo, before the break, we were talking about how it is that we should be managing and planning and coming up with industrious ways in which to manage our money, even when we don't have quite a lot of money. So I'd like for us to talk about how it is that we go about budgeting. You'd mentioned budgeting earlier. Let's just have a brief discussion around budgeting and how it is that we can track our expenditure in order to manage our money better.
Okay. I think with budgeting, there will be elements of the short-term budgets and long-term budgets. The short-term budgets will talk to things which are needed. Let me say every month.
Okay.
You know, every month people will pay their rentals, their bonds, their car loans, whatsoever, school fees, whatsoever. But as a family, you also know that maybe in 5 years down the line, this is what you want to attain. It's important that on budgeting on those basic elements, remember there is the future which is coming, which even speaks to the times when you are no longer able to make means. a 10 rand for the future makes sense. So whenever you're budgeting, try and make sure that you don't use the hand-to-mouth system.
Yes.
Try and put your things in those priorities, basic things covered. Remember, you know, as a pastor, I'll always say, don't forget the church, don't forget God, in other words.
Yes.
So your budget must be led by God. If your first fruits are given to God, He has a way of expanding your barns and making sure that things remain there. But the reality of things are that have your priorities well planned, and also try by all means to live by the means.
Living within your
Yeah.
means.
Yes.
Let's have that conversation. So I like cars. I like shoes. I like nice, fancy things. I think I can afford it. So I will try and buy those things. Just because you can afford something, should you get it?
It's not wrong to like.
Okay.
It's not wrong to have beautiful clothes, beautiful shoes, to drive a beautiful car. But the most important thing is that, are you able to afford that?
Okay.
Don't look at a neighbor and say, because the neighbor is driving an X5, I have to upgrade from an X3 to an X5. Look at your bank account. Look at the price tag there and say, am I able to purchase what is written on the price tag? Because of liking, the danger of liking as well is that you need to balance whether is it a need or a want.
Okay, need versus want. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the needs versus the wants. So I need it is defined by it sustains me,
Yeah.
and then a want is just a banal desire.
There are things which we can group under the needs.
Okay.
Life-sustaining things.
Okay.
I'll give you a good example. You need food,
Yes.
healthy food,
Yes.
but you don't necessarily need these kind of shoes.
Yes.
These shoes are meant to beautify yourself outside, but food is about your health, you know.
So let's stick to the food conversation, because the shoe conversation might lead us astray.
Yeah.
On the food, so we need healthy food. We don't need donuts.
Yeah, definitely. There, it needs that for you to be able to sustain your budget on the kind of food you need. You also need to invest time in it. The reason why we go for takeaways, for donuts, for simple things, sometimes is purely because we are lazy to stand behind. There are things which we buy on the streets instead of cooking them at home.
So that's all part and parcel of living within our means
Yes.
and managing our
Yes.
budget. So you're advising us to plan as simple as a daily meal.
Yeah.
Something as simple as that, which is a need. You need to eat in
Yeah.
order to be able to go about your job, to be industrious, to be creative.
Yeah.
And if you don't plan, then you end up buying on the streets and going
Exactly.
outside of your budget and doing all these other things.
If everything is rush,
Yes.
even your children will be given pocket money for school instead of a lunch tin,
Lunchbox.
which a mother who invests time for her children will stand behind the kitchen and say, what am I preparing for tomorrow's meal? You know, the Proverbs, something Proverbs said, one woman who wakes up in the morning and say, my husband, my children, what are they going to eat in the day? If she cannot do that, she will end up giving them 20 rands, 50 rands. They will buy something which could have costed her 5 rands to prepare a slice of bread, put lettuce, put whatever, tomato. It costs less than buying that at 20 rands. Yeah.
So how do we go about maintaining or sustaining or create, let's talk about the creation rather first, of financial goals. So you've given us an idea now of how we need to live within our means. And I think part and parcel of that would be setting financial goals, whether it would be to become credit worthy, to become debt free. How do we go about creating those financial goals for ourselves?
Yeah, I would like to advise that, you know, us especially as the community in Southern Africa, we treasure most being credit worthy instead of being credit free. I would like to drive people to be credit free
Okay.
one day and say, I want to drive a car which is not owned by any bank. I want to have a property house which is not owned. But remember, if we are not able to be credit worthy, it's impossible to be credit free.
That's true.
You need to be approved by other people so that you are able to say, let me clean them out of the system. So this thing of credit free, it needs those long-term goals.
Okay.
Long-term goals speak to the fact that I have my earnings today, but I'm not gonna eat today, all of them. I need my salary for this month to speak to my life in 5 years. Start speaking today.
Today?
Yeah.
For 5 years?
So, yeah, so those goals, which can tell you that when we say life begins at 40 to those who are youth,
Yes.
what is it that I want to be when I'm
At
40? Do I still want to be going to the bank and credit worth and getting a car? Or I want to be living that kind of a free? I've seen some people with brilliant business ideas, but because they did not plan ahead, they don't even have money to invest on those ideas. They have to fail putting through those ideas because another person does not believe in that. You have to go to another man and beg them and say, this is a brilliant idea. But if you know that, and don't rush things, be patient with things. Say, in 5 years' time, this is what I want to achieve. Let me start working on it today. There are things which you can avoid. You can drive less and arrive. You can wear less and be covered. You can eat responsibly and still be healthy.
I think the instant gratification is a problem that we definitely continue to have, especially in our society today.
Yeah.
We have youth who don't have aspirations for long-term careers or bigger careers or more old-fashioned careers, if we can call them that, because they don't seem to be giving the money that they would want to have. Would you advise us to chase money, or should we be chasing fulfillment in these things? Because I feel as though there has to be a correlation between the monies that we earn and a certain fulfillment that we should derive from the process of obtaining money.
Yeah, I want to be a real man and be factual here. Money is needed.
Yes.
Even our churches, they put that special time in the program to canvass for money for church buildings or this. Money is needed. My advice, without me saying chase for money, I say let us be hard workers.
Okay.
God gave us 6 days, thou shalt labor. If you labor 6 days faithfully, you will realize that all your goals will be what? But know what is it that you are investing time in doing so that you can. Money is description of what I've labored. I'm not talking about those who are lucky to have parents who labored for them for years and left them with millions. But I'm talking that if you are faithful to 6 days, God will be faithful to you.
So, as we're beginning to wind up our conversation, I just want to touch over some of the things that we have discussed, which is obviously the management of our money, planning for the future. You have emphasized this enormously. Are there any other gems that you think we definitely need to take away from today's conversation?
Yeah, the thing which I can say that I cannot live without saying, put God first in your plans.
Okay.
And I will emphasize what is also common. Fail to plan, you're planning to fail.
Okay.
So, like that book, that verse in Ecclesiastes 10, verse 19, it says money moves everything. Therefore, in us having that money, let's plan strategically. And I encourage families to work together so that the goals of the father, the same with the goals of the children and the mother, everything is entertained. Don't live to impress.
Yes.
Because your doors will be closed and windows will be closed when that time of need is coming. Don't care about the neighbors. Support the neighbors if you can, but don't live in life and measure yourself according to another person. And plan the future, because we are here to stay until Jesus Christ comes. As long as we are here, we will always be in need of moving, of doing things. And therefore, what we gain today is blessings from God. Let's invest in Him, and He will never fail us.
Invest in God, be rooted in God in all our planning for the future. I guess because we have no future without God being a part of it. Something else you had mentioned earlier was invest in our lives and in our well-being by taking out relevant insurances like medical aid or hospital plans, and not living by faith purely, but living practically through faith. If I heard you correctly.
Yeah, you don't hide behind faith. Take your faith to medical aid as well. That's practical. You are taking God to all these things which are structured to help us in life. It's as good as leaving your money in the bank. You don't put a security card at the bank.
Yeah.
You believe that that's an institution which can
Look after you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Moyo. Thank you for the wisdom that you shared with us, and thank you so much for encouraging us to plan and to do better with our money. Throughout this season, we'll be touching on all these topics, a range of topics to help us look at how practically we deal with our money and how God wants us in our stewardship to be better with our money in accordance with what He wills for us in this life while we're still on earth. Until next time, thank you for joining us on Money Matters. Goodbye.